Hello, everyone. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the warm welcome, warm introduction. I'm very thrilled to be here today, so thanks for your time. Let me just start sharing my screen. Um, hello again. I thought, if you're an engineer, what would you do? What do I actually do? It's kind of what I had a little bit of think about here. So just to repeat, I'm Paris Amy. I'm what we call a technical account manager at Cummins, which is originally a diesel engine company, but we work with all sorts of, say, power providers. And let me just get started here. So my computer, there we go. So what I wanted to talk to everybody today about is kind of more about the person behind the engineer. So just wanted to discuss, who am I, where do I come from, and why is it important? So where we come from and who's around us, who we grow up with, who we're exposed to, they shape our initial understanding of the world. I've got a picture of my house here in Los Angeles, California, which is where I'm from. Some of you might have known that my accent is a little bit different. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I grew up near the beach. I was always playing outside with my friends. We were always trying to figure out, we would play football in the front yard. Yes, so football, soccer, right? We would create different forms of the game tag. We had a lot of fun as kids, and this kind of location and place to be, also influenced. So my father worked in the film business for 30 years. I built robots in high school, and I read a lot of books as a kid. So that's just kind of the place that I grew up in. And I think everybody has kind of big influencers or big influences in their life that kind of, again, shape who you are and kind of what you want in life. So I just wanted to talk to you really briefly about 3 of my biggest influences. So I mentioned that my father, who you can see down there, dressed up for Halloween, he used to build things for movies. And my sister and I got to participate in this creative side of problem solving. So he would read a script and it would say something, and he's, I need to build something to give to the actor to use in the movie. And so that was really fun. As kids, we had the opportunity to create these things that would then go into the movies. We had to figure out, okay, if this was what they need, how are we going to fulfill that need? So he would come home from after work, wake us up when we were asleep, and show us, little light shows, or we would play with dry ice. And this kind of like curiosity and interest in how does stuff work really kind of came from him. So I got another photo here of my mom. She was someone who had friends from all over the place. So she connected with people from all walks of life and always asked my sister and I to question things. So if we didn't understand something, or if we wanted something to be better, she said, okay, ask how you can do it. And then the last person is my grandfather. I've got a photo of him here with me. We're working on one of his old cars that he had, trying to fix a part of it. And he worked in the United States for Ford Car Company for over 40 years. And I spent a lot of summers with him, just hanging around and seeing what he was doing. So these 3 people with this, my dad kind of encouraging us to look at things and problem solve, my mom encouraging my sister and I, how do you make something better? And then my grandfather with this kind of influence from cars is really how I got into engineering. But I did not really know about that until I was about 13 or 14. It wasn't like it was clear to me at the age of 5 that I wanted to be an engineer. So go on to my next slide here. I just wanted to give you another little bit of information about who I am and where I come from, because I think it's really important for you to think about, oh, you've heard about this foreign land or this new culture, and you can go there and you can visit there and you can experience new people, you can learn other languages. And engineering is a really, really great way to see the world, or to see more of your country, or to go on business trips and have some, just to experience different people. And so I put a condensed map here to show you that. So I'm from this city here in Los Angeles. I've lived a couple of different places in the United States. And then about 8 years ago, I moved over and I actually lived in Huddersfield in the UK for about 4 years. And then I moved to Germany, where I've lived for the past 4 years. So working as an engineer gave me that opportunity to move across the world and to really get to know new cultures. A couple other things, right? We think about there are so many different sides to engineers and to people. So I just put here some quick photos. I've got 3 really cute cats that keep me company while I'm working through the day. Sometimes I work at home, sometimes I work in the office, and that's a really good time. There are some pretty wonderful coworkers. And then after work, like I said, I do play football, and I'm still playing football. And I also really like to do snowboarding. So it's all of these kind of things create, right, who I am and what I'm interested in and what I want out of my life and out of engineering. So I go to my next slide. So this is a really interesting thing to me. How did I discover engineering? How do you discover engineering? So I just put some quick photos here. So I mentioned that I was born in Los Angeles. So I went to secondary school in Los Angeles. My high school had a robotics club, and I thought, you know what? That sounds interesting. I had never done anything with robotics. I thought, oh, I can build something that moves from pieces that don't move. How cool is that? And I was really lucky at that time. I had a mentor who helped out with our club, who was an engineer. And I had another really great teacher who encouraged me and supported me and said, hey, you should try out this, you should try this program. And you know, those people around you that encourage you to kind of push your boundaries or to try new things, those were those 2 people. And I thought at the end of it, I thought, ooh, I really liked building this robot. How cool was that? So then I stayed in Los Angeles and I went to university, and I decided to study mechanical engineering because of that robotics club. Now, like I said, I chose mechanical engineering, and there's so many different types of engineering, but I chose mechanical because I could create something that moves, something that functions out of something that actually just sits there. And again, I don't know how familiar you all are with engineering, but there's so many different types of engineering. There are engineers for roads, for bridges, for ships, for chemical plants, for airplanes, for cars. It's just, there are all these specialties that you can explore within engineering. There's really a spot for everybody. And I think that I didn't understand that at first because I didn't really know what engineering was, but I definitely found my spot there. So like I said, I kind of liked motors and cars. So when I went to university, I thought, okay, I'd really like to do something with motors and cars. Again, probably because of the influence of my grandfather working in the car company. So I thought, hey, it'd be pretty cool to do something with engines, because engines are what make your car go. Whether that's a petrol engine or an electrical engine, something has to power your car to make it go. So right here, this is a car that my university team created as our end of program project. And somebody actually sat here in this little seat and drove the car around a track. And that was a lot of fun. So I immediately was like, ooh, I want to do engines. We had a little like a lawnmower engine that powered this car. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be on the engine team. I got the engine running, got it connected to the gear train, and got the car actually moving. So that was a lot of fun. And I thought, ooh, you know what? Let's keep going with engines. So there are all these things that kind of happen. You're kind of interested in this. There's always a way that you can learn more about that little thing that interests you. And for me, that's been the best thing about engineering. So I decided, you know what, I want to learn more. So I decided to do more school, which a lot of people think, oh no, more school. But when you're doing school also in a topic that you really like, it becomes really interesting and you're really motivated for it. So I did more mechanical engineering, but I focused on a component, and I have a picture of it here, and it's called a turbocharger, which probably means nothing to a lot of people. But you've got an engine. If you put a turbocharger on your engine, you can get your engine to go faster, which is fun, but for better fuel savings. So you put less energy into the engine and you get more power out of it. So I thought, ooh, that sounds like a way that I can make the world a better place by improving the efficiency of the engines that we have to use every day in our cars or in our lorries or in anything that moves people around, buses, trains, you name it. So after I did that, I thought, where else can I go? So I ended up working and moving again to another state in the United States, where I started working for the company Cummins that I currently work for. And again, just like with the different types of engineering, there are a lot of companies that offer different roles that you can do. So I've been an engineer. I've worked at Cummins for 11 years. I've been an engineer the whole time. But when I started at Cummins, I helped support the manufacturing line. And that's the place where they come and you take, okay, I've got this part and I got to connect it to this part and I've got to connect it to this part. And how does it all go together? So that's what I started with. And then I thought, you know what? I think I'd like to design the part. So my next job, I went, okay, I'm going to design the part. And I did that for 4 years in Huddersfield, and that was a lot of fun there. Then the next thing I said, and maybe I go here to the next slide. So the next thing I thought, okay, what can I do next? And so for the past 5 years, I've been working what we call customer engineering. So making sure that my customer has this gadget that I've made. Do they actually want to use it? Does it actually make sense that my lip balm opens this way? Should it actually open from the side? So it's about trying to understand and connect with people on why I have a product made a certain way. And if we go back to my influences from the beginning of the presentation, I've got my dad who's saying, you got to figure out how to make it. My mom saying, yeah, but you got to make sure that you connect with people because how else are they going to use it? So my second to last slide here is how's it going, right? So I've had grown up in Los Angeles. I've kind of moved all over the world. I've had a really nice time here working at Cummins. We create, like I said, I was interested in motors. We create the motors and the engines that go into lorries like this one that you can see me here driving. That was in Darlington. I had a lot of fun there. And it's this was during work time. So I got to drive around in a truck, in a lorry, all day during work time to make sure that the engine that I had built actually worked in the truck. And I just thought, how cool is it that I worked on something and now I'm sitting there driving it? So if you were an engineer, would you always ask questions? Would you try to solve a problem? Would you be curious? Would you make the world we live in a better place? Would you travel the world? Would you learn new things? And I said, yeah, that's what I would do because that's what I do currently. So I just wanted to give you a quick background on who I was and where I came from, because the journey that everybody has to engineering isn't the same, right? I had a very, very different journey. But to stand in front of an engine like this that you can see is 2 times as tall as me and maybe 3 times as big and go, yeah, I designed a part on that. And I've made this engine just a bit better so that we can have a little bit better air that we breathe in. It's really been worth it.
I'm going to open up to the audience for questions. Remember, if you do have a question, please type them in the chat box. But I have the first question for you, Paris.
Yes.
What do you love most about your job?
Oh, I love working with other people and hearing about different people's ideas, because I see something in one way and I go to my neighbor who grew up in a completely different place, who had learned German as their first language instead of English, and they see something in a different way. And so I really like working with colleagues every single day. That's my favorite part. Just learning what they have to teach me too.
It's funny you say that actually, because there's a question in here. So obviously you've worked with colleagues from all around the world. And this
Mhm.
question is working in engineering different in the UK, USA, and Germany?
100%. Absolutely. It is different. And you have, when you move and you, again, if you go to a different school or you go to a different city, you have to learn and understand and adapt to the people that are working around you. And I definitely, let's say stereotypically, the Germans are a little bit more direct, which I like.
Yeah.
When I worked in England, a couple times I had to tell my boss, but what do you really mean by that? Which isn't to say that the one way is better or the other. But yeah, that's been my favorite thing, in all honesty, is being able to work with different people.
And it just sounds interesting. And obviously, you get to meet people who work on so many different things as well, by the sounds of things. I mean, if you're helping on an engine and you've got to put that engine in a truck, people have got to design the truck. So do you
Yeah.
have to communicate with them as well? Is everybody involved in this build?
Yes, absolutely. So Cummins doesn't make trucks. Cummins just makes the engines and the insides that power the truck. And so it's what I spent last year doing, was working with the truck manufacturer to say, okay, how does this fit into your vehicle? What do we need to change? What do you need to change? Because again, just like engineering is about working with people, the systems that you create need to work together. So this might be the best lip balm ever, but if it doesn't fit in my pocket and I can't take it around with me, who cares? And so that's the same thing with the products that we design. So absolutely.
We've got another question here from Mrs. Fairbairn, and I think it's a good question, especially I'm thinking of that picture of you with the engine.
Mhm.
How long does it take to go from drawing and designing something, in this instance like the turbocharger, to actually
Mm.
manufacturing, testing it, and then getting it in an engine? How do you go idea to it's in the real world?
That is a really, really good question. And unfortunately, the answer is it depends. But on a general scale, the bigger your component is, the longer it's going to take. So a turbocharger, for example, let's say typically 2 to 3 years it would take to design, test, and validate, and build the turbocharger. Yeah. So for engines, um, 4 years, 4 to 5 years, typically. Yeah. It's a long
Wow.
process. You got to do a lot of planning up first, working with those people to make sure you're successful down the line.
And in that planning, actually, so we've got a question from St. Mark's Primary School. Do you create prototypes? And if you do, how do you create them?
Ooh, yeah, prototypes, absolute must have when you're designing anything. A lot of work is gone. You can do simulation, you can use computers, but there's nothing that replaces actually getting the physical thing up there. So what we do a lot of the time is we work with very specific suppliers that will make components faster, that are representative of what you would eventually have, so that you can get the component made faster, and do the testing. But yeah, absolutely, we are using prototypes. That's a really good question. And prototypes are also quite expensive because you need them made really, really fast, but it's necessary.
So we've got some more questions, and in fact, we've had a few people ask this question, but this one's from Rowan in Primary 6, and they want to know what's been your favourite project to work on so far?
Hmm. I think my absolute favorite project is when, and I'll try not to go too technical, but in the turbocharger, and it's got, two housings. One side is a hot side and one side is a cold side. And then you've got something in the middle that spins really, 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 really fast. Like, yeah, I don't, really fast. Uh, yeah, I don't know how to explain. Anyway, I can say 100,000 RPMs. I don't know if that means
Wow.
anything to anybody.
It sounds like a lot.
Very fast. And if you don't ensure that what that's spinning on, it's called a bearing, if that bearing isn't good, the whole thing will break. And I had the opportunity to design a new bearing, like a futuristic bearing for the turbocharger. And I did that using the computer. I went and visited our supplier. I got to talk to experts. And that was about 6 to 8 months. And that's my absolute favorite thing, because when I talk about, something on paper to something in your hand, I designed something on paper and saw it in my hand, put it in the turbocharger, tested it as a prototype, and it worked. That was my favorite thing.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Must be great to see it the whole way.
Yeah.
We've got some more questions in about yourself, actually, Paris. And a few people asked this, but what was your favorite subject when you were at school? And what subjects do you think really help in becoming an engineer?
So I'm going to be really untypical here, or atypical here. I loved English.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I really loved English, and in school, I was actually in a competition, but it was on the English reading and the books. And I think that a lot of people, you definitely need to understand math and physics, right? If you go to the general basics, but if you can't communicate your ideas to people, and you can't talk about what you've created or what you want to do, I think that that's a big loss, that people just think engineering is about math and science. Excuse me, maths and science. But for me, English was my favorite subject. English and literature was my favorite subject. And I think that that actually really helped me in being in my job now of needing to discuss and communicate with customers. If I can't create a relationship with them or talk to them, I can't sell my product.
Yeah, you've got to understand what they need and what they want, and then you've got to be able to figure out a way to tell them that that's what they're going to get. It must be really
Yeah.
important.
So I think I would never, don't be discouraged if maths and sciences, you're not the best at them. If you're kind of interested and you think that engineering is interesting, go for it. There's nothing, trying can never hurt you, right? In this space.
That's some great advice. So we've got loads of questions coming actually, but a few people have asked this question. What's the hardest part about your job?
I would say that the hardest part is when I have an expectation about how something should go, and then it doesn't go that way. Which comes back down to people, right? I said people have different ideas, but also I have an idea of how this product should be designed, and then I do my test to validate it. And what happens if it doesn't work, right? And I think that that's the hardest part, is accepting that you're going to have conflict and you're going to fail, but that's
Wow.
actually a good thing. And so I will say it is still difficult. I've been doing it for 11 plus years of trying and failing. It doesn't necessarily get easier, but you do get more practice at, okay, now what do I do?
So when you talk about sort of trying and failing, it gives you practice. Would you say that making mistakes is something that happens a lot in engineering, and is it a good or a bad thing?
How it happens 100% all the time. And it is a good thing if you react appropriately, right? If you've made a mistake, you can't just go, oh man, I made a mistake, and that's it. Okay, I made a mistake. What can I do to fix it? What can I do to stop the mistake in the future? Absolutely. Scott, I make mistakes every single day. I say the wrong number, or I do the analysis wrong, but I admit it and go, okay, I did that wrong. Let me recorrect. And how do I go forward? It's part of engineering. It's expected, and it's a good thing.
Brilliant. Well, we've got some more questions in. This one comes from Maya in primary 6, and Maya wants to know, if you weren't a mechanical engineer, what would you be?
So, if I wasn't a mechanical engineer, I would, I think I would be a professional football player.
Oh, good answer.
Which sounds really funny. No, I really like engineering. Football is a passion of mine, and I really enjoy doing it. And so I don't even think about not being an engineer, because it is so much fun and I have so much passion for it. But I do really love football too.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a good answer. So we've got this question in here from Lee, and Lee asks, "What happens if an idea is not working? How do you know to keep pursuing it or to drop it and move on?"
Ooh, a very good question. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes things just do not work. But I would say that what I would do is if I have something and it's not working, my first thing would be is to go talk to a group of colleagues. So I'd take 3 or 4 people and get their opinion on it to say, hey, am I looking at this wrong? Am I understanding something different? Do you see something that I don't see? Um, if the answer comes back as yes, so again, engineering is not an individual activity. Engineering is all about working with and talking to other people around you and using their expertise to build a better product. So honestly, it would be we would come together as a group and agree as a group and say, for these reasons, the timeline's too long, the solution isn't working, the cost is too high. We're going to say this was an okay idea, maybe. Make sure we document it so that maybe we come back to it in 4 or 5 years when, I don't know, we have new ways of creating prototypes like 3D printing or something like that, right? Maybe in 5 years, there's another solution. So don't ever throw it away. It's okay to say it's not working anymore, but make sure you make a note somewhere and say, yeah, this is what we tried at some point.
Yeah, and it's almost like not no, it's just no, not now. So
Yes,
yeah, I like that.
exactly.
So we've had this question a couple of times. Sorry if I didn't catch who asked it, but obviously you've now gone from the USA to England to Germany. Do you speak multiple languages, and do you still want to travel the world with engineering?
Soll ich das auf Deutsch antworten oder auf English? So I said, should I answer that in German or should I answer that in English? So yes, I do speak multiple languages now. I moved to Germany speaking no German. And I learned German in about 2.5 to 3 years. So you can always learn a new language. I absolutely want to continue to travel the world with engineering. I don't know if I want to leave Germany forever, but I would love to go work in other places, even for a little bit of time. It's so important to experience and work with other people from outside of where you're from. It just makes your life so much richer. So absolutely.
Brilliant. I think we've got time for one more question, and this question comes from St. Mark's and it's about the future. Do you have an ultimate goal in engineering? Do you have something really big you want to work towards?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. Um, it's an excellent question, and maybe I have a boring answer. I want to continue to love my job and to love what I do. And I would also love to have hydrogen engines and trains. Let's put it, that's what I'm working on right now. We've got to change the world of the next future here with transportation. But for me, my big goal is to continue to like what I do every day because I spend so much time here. I might as well enjoy it. So maybe that's a
That
boring answer, but
No, that's a
love what you do.
fantastic answer. And now that's my ultimate goal as well. I think that's brilliant. So just looking at the time, I want to bring things to a close and thank you all for joining us. But a massive thank you to Paris for helping inspire all the engineers in the making out there, because it is your turn to come up with your own engineering ideas. Remember and send them to us once you've finished so we can get our certificates sent out, and hopefully we'll see you all in person at our exhibitions at the end of the school year. Remember, the deadline is March 22nd, so once you've got your ideas down in class, get them sent to us. But massive thank you again to everyone, but a huge thank you to Paris. And remember, if you were an engineer, what would you do?